Here's what the FBI found in Hulk Hogan's mansion after his death. That shocked everyone. The world woke up to shock. Hulk Hogan was dead, found inside his Florida mansion. The man who defined wrestling's golden age was gone. The headline said heart attack. But behind that official report, something didn't add up. The gym where he trained every morning, spotless. The security system protecting his mansion, manually disabled. And deep inside the house, a hidden room no one knew existed. As investigators pulled back the curtain, the story of Hogan's final hours began to twist into something far darker. A late-night phone call, a silent alarm, and evidence that pointed to secrets he may have taken to the grave. This wasn't just the end of a wrestling legend. It was the beginning of a mystery that the FBI couldn't ignore. The morning of July 24, 2025, dawned like any other in Clearwater, Florida, but it quickly became etched in the annals of professional wrestling history as the day Hulkamania officially ended. News channels and social media feeds erupted with the shocking announcement that Terry Gene Bollea, the legendary Hulk Hogan, had been found unresponsive in his home. At 71 years old, a figure synonymous with invincibility had suddenly, unexpectedly become mortal. The initial distress call, a frantic 911 report of cardiac arrest, sent emergency responders racing to Hogan's sprawling mansion. Paramedics immediately initiated life-saving protocols, a desperate battle to reignite a heart that had once beaten to the roar of millions. Despite their tireless efforts, every attempt to revive him failed. At precisely 11:17 a.m., doctors at Morton Plant Hospital delivered the grim pronouncement, Hulk Hogan was dead. It was an ending that no fan, no peer, had ever truly envisioned for the man who had embodied power, resilience, and a larger-than-life charisma that transcended the wrestling ring. Initial reports moved with lightning speed, quickly followed by the medical examiner's official confirmation. The cause of death was ruled an acute myocardial infarction, a sudden and catastrophic heart attack. The classification was natural, and to many, it seemed a logical, if tragic, conclusion. Hogan was in his early 70s, and his body bore the indelible scars of decades spent in the brutal world of professional wrestling. The relentless toll of slamming giants, the ceaseless travel, and more than 24 surgeries had undeniably left him vulnerable. His body, once an impenetrable fortress, had finally succumbed to the accumulated wear and tear of an extraordinary life. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly straightforward narrative, a more complex and disquieting story began to emerge. Hogan's extensive medical history revealed layers that raised further questions, hinting at battles fought far from the public eye. He had been quietly grappling with leukemia, a serious blood disorder, and atrial fibrillation, a condition characterized by an irregular heartbeat. Both illnesses significantly increased the risk of sudden cardiac arrest, painting a picture of a man whose public persona of strength belied a quiet internal struggle. Fans had recently seen him smiling in photos, attending events, and appearing remarkably robust, yet the reality was that his body carried a multitude of scars, both visible and hidden, a testament to his enduring fight. Even with this context, his sudden passing did not fit neatly into a narrative of natural, gradual decline. Hogan had been observed training rigorously not long before his death. Friends and family members attested to his improved health, claiming he looked better than he had in years. His wife, Sky Daly, frequently shared that he was deeply committed to meditation, clean eating, and daily workouts, having seemingly found a new, serene balance in life, far removed from the chaotic energy of his wrestling days. This apparent resurgence made his abrupt end all the more difficult for those close to him to accept, sparking an undercurrent of unease. The police officers who first arrived at the mansion noted more than just Hogan's lifeless body. Certain elements of the scene struck them as unusual. These subtle but significant observations, combined with the undeniable fact that Hogan was no ordinary citizen, prompted a decision that the case warranted a deeper, more thorough investigation. The Clearwater Police Department announced that they had conducted multiple witness interviews and meticulously gathered Hogan's complete medical records. While acknowledging the medical examiner's conclusion of a heart attack, they pointed to the unique nature of the circumstances, subtly suggesting that this was not merely the passing of a private individual. It was the death of one of the world's most recognizable athletes, and any unanswered questions could easily spiral into rampant speculation, demanding an exhaustive and transparent inquiry. This decision quickly escalated to federal involvement. The FBI was discreetly brought into the investigation, not only to independently confirm the medical findings, but also to meticulously review any irregularities at the scene. Such a move was highly uncommon for deaths initially classified as natural, and it immediately raised eyebrows among the public and media alike. The unspoken implication was clear: the authorities believed there might be more to Hogan's death than initially met the eye, refusing to allow his story to end without every potential mystery being thoroughly explored. As news outlets continued to confirm the medical examiner's report, tributes poured in from across the globe. Wrestlers who had once stood alongside and against him remembered him as the transformative figure who had brought professional wrestling into living rooms worldwide. To his millions of devoted fans, the explanation of a heart attack seemed, on the surface, sufficient. Yet, behind the carefully worded official statements, a parallel story was quietly taking shape, one rooted in persistent questions and unsettling observations that stubbornly refused to dissipate. Why was the scene described as unusual? Why were federal agents deemed necessary to probe further into what appeared to be a natural passing? And what did the investigators truly see inside the mansion that fateful morning? On the surface, the story was that of a legendary wrestler whose body finally gave out. But a growing number of investigators were not convinced. The explanation of a heart attack did not satisfy them, because inside his mansion, the scene was anything but ordinary. The sterile gym and the silent alarms. When federal investigators entered Hulk Hogan's opulent mansion in Clearwater, Florida, during their initial sweep, one of the first areas to undergo meticulous inspection was the state of the art gym. This was Hogan's personal sanctuary, a space where he had dedicated countless hours, even in his later years, to maintaining the formidable physique that had defined his career. Friends and family consistently described it as a repository of his wrestling legacy, a room filled with an array of weights, advanced machines, and countless reminders of his storied journey in the squared circle. Yet, on the morning of his death, the room presented a starkly different picture, one that immediately struck investigators as profoundly anomalous. The gym appeared almost unnaturally pristine, an unsettling tableau of order that defied the expectation of a regularly used workout space. Surfaces gleamed with an unblemished polish, free of the usual dust or smudges that accumulate during active use. Weights were perfectly racked, each in its designated spot, as if arranged for a showroom display rather than a strenuous session. The floor mats, typically bearing the marks of sweat and scuffs, looked as if no one had touched them in days. There were no discarded water bottles, no damp towels, no signs whatsoever of recent activity. For a man known for his strict, almost ritualistic workout routine, this immaculate presentation was highly unusual. Investigators noted in their reports that it looked less like an active training area and more like a carefully staged room. This raised immediate and disturbing questions about whether someone had deliberately cleaned and arranged the space before emergency services were even summoned, potentially tampering with the scene. Attention soon shifted from the gym itself to the wider security infrastructure of the sprawling estate. Hulk Hogan, A public figure keenly aware of the need for privacy and protection had invested heavily in safeguarding his property. His home boasted one of the most advanced security systems available at the time, a formidable network comprising multiple high-definition cameras, sophisticated motion detectors, and redundant backup systems specifically designed to prevent tampering or circumvention. Hogan was renowned for his meticulous approach to privacy and safety, rarely allowing visitors without prior notice or a comprehensive vetting process. For these reasons, investigators fully expected to find detailed, comprehensive digital records of all movements in and around the house, offering an irrefutable timeline of events. What they discovered, however, was deeply concerning and immediately escalated the investigation's gravity. The entire security system had been manually switched off from inside the property. This was not the result of a power outage, nor was it a failure due to a technical glitch or system malfunction. Someone with direct, authorized access to the system had intentionally accessed the control panel and systematically disabled its protections. This finding was immensely significant because it implied that whoever perpetrated this action possessed not only intimate knowledge of the mansion's layout, but also the specific codes or protocols required to override its advanced safeguards. Crucially, there were no discernible signs of forced entry. Doors and windows showed no evidence of being breached, and nothing in the house suggested that an outsider had violently forced their way in. For the local police, these details coalesced into a perplexing puzzle. Either Hogan himself had turned off the security system for an unknown reason, or someone with trusted access had done so, acting from within the sanctity of his home. Given the increasingly suspicious circumstances, the case was swiftly handed over to federal authorities. The FBI deployed specialized teams, including experts in cybercrime and digital forensics, whose task was to meticulously examine every component of Hogan's security network and smart home setup. These sophisticated systems often store detailed logs that record precise timestamps for when cameras are activated or deactivated, when alarms are armed or disarmed, and when any modifications are made to the system settings. By poring over these intricate digital records, investigators harbored the hope of establishing a definitive timeline that would definitively reveal who had control of the house in the critical hours leading up to Hogan's death. In parallel with the security system, the FBI also meticulously reviewed Hogan's array of smart home devices. These included automated thermostats, intelligent lighting systems, and other integrated features that could potentially reveal whether someone had been moving around inside the mansion. In many modern homes, such devices provide invaluable forensic evidence, recording precise timestamps and user inputs for every interaction. Even seemingly minor details, such as a light being switched on or off, could serve as crucial puzzle pieces, helping to reconstruct the sequence of events leading up to the critical moment of his discovery. Despite these exhaustive efforts, the digital evidence did not provide a clear, unambiguous answer. While it was definitively established that the security system had been intentionally disabled, the digital records did not conclusively reveal by whom. Crucially, no unauthorized access was detected from outside the house, ruling out an external breach. The data instead strongly suggested that the change had been made locally, reinforcing the unsettling theory that the action was undertaken either by Hogan himself or by someone physically present within the residence and possessing the necessary access. As forensic teams continued their painstaking analysis of the electronic evidence, They simultaneously recognized the imperative to explore Hogan's personal communications. It was a distinct possibility that the underlying reason behind these unusual findings was not connected to the machines in his home, but rather to the people who had spoken to him in the days immediately preceding his death. Even as investigators meticulously traced digital records and scoured data for answers, attention began to shift towards a different, more human lead. A late-night phone call to Hulk Hogan, placed just days before his passing, would soon become one of the most unsettling and pivotal pieces of the entire investigation. The cryptic call that shook Hogan, as investigators meticulously reconstructed the final days of Hulk Hogan's life. One particular incident stood out with chilling clarity, an anomaly that defied easy explanation. Just 3 days before his death, Hogan received a phone call late at night that visibly and profoundly disturbed him. Those who resided with him at the time, particularly his wife, Sky Daly, later recounted to investigators that it wasn't the audible content of the call that was remarkable, but rather Hogan's intensely unsettling reaction to it. Daly, who knew her husband intimately, shared that she had never witnessed him appear as genuinely shaken or unsettled as he did in the immediate aftermath of that conversation. Hogan, a man renowned for his stoicism and an almost preternatural calm in stressful situations, a figure accustomed to handling immense pressure in both his high-profile career and tumultuous personal life, appeared visibly pale and profoundly shaken. Daly vividly described his expression as one of unadulterated fear, an emotion she had never once witnessed in all their years together. He remained uncharacteristically silent about the specifics of what was said, but his entire demeanor unequivocally indicated that the conversation weighed heavily on him, casting a pall over his usually resilient spirit. Investigators quickly surmised that this was far from a routine call. Digital forensic teams immediately initiated efforts to trace its origin, but their findings suggested a significant and sophisticated effort had gone into concealing the source. The call had been expertly routed through multiple servers, strategically crisscrossing different countries, creating a convoluted digital labyrinth. Each time investigators followed the trail, it terminated at yet another point in the complex chain, rendering it almost impossible to pinpoint the true starting location. This extraordinary level of complexity was highly uncommon. While ordinary prank calls or misdeals could typically be traced with relative ease, this particular call had been deliberately hidden behind layers of advanced rerouting technology, often referred to as proxies or relays. To the seasoned analysts examining the evidence, it unequivocally suggested that the person on the other end possessed access to highly advanced technical resources and expertise. Whoever made the call unequivocally did not want to be found. The FBI entertained several compelling possibilities for the call's purpose. One prominent theory posited that the call had been intended as a stark warning, perhaps a veiled threat. Another speculated it was linked to extortion, with someone attempting to pressure Hogan over sensitive private matters, leveraging undisclosed information against him. A third, though less immediately supported by concrete evidence, suggested a connection to highly sensitive information Hogan himself might have been involved with, hinting at a hidden world beyond his public persona. What investigators universally agreed upon was that the call was emphatically not random. It was deliberate, calculated, and had left an undeniable, lasting impression of profound unease on Hogan himself. From the available accounts, Hogan responded with very few words during the cryptic conversation. According to Sky Daly, he spoke only briefly, uttering a minimal response before abruptly terminating the call. This uncharacteristic silence was particularly striking for a man who was typically vocal and expressive. His terse reply suggested that what he heard did not necessitate debate, discussion, or argument. It may have been something he already understood, a piece of information he had perhaps been anticipating but was unwilling or unable to openly discuss. The timing of the call further intensified the sense of concern, adding a critical piece to the puzzle investigators were painstakingly assembling. Coming just 3 days before his death, it fit directly into the rapidly unfolding timeline. His life had appeared remarkably stable in the preceding months. He was diligently recovering from a recent surgery, steadfastly adhering to his health routines, and enjoying seemingly tranquil time with his family. Nothing in his meticulously structured daily schedule suggested impending turmoil, making the sudden, mysterious appearance of this unsettling call all the more significant and ominous. The FBI's cyber specialists unequivocally confirmed that the methods employed to disguise the origin of the call were highly advanced and indicative of professional-level obfuscation. Signals had been deliberately bounced across multiple international networks, a sophisticated tactic frequently utilized by groups or individuals determined to evade detection by law enforcement agencies. Such actions required both specialized knowledge and a clear, malicious intention. This was not a casual conversation. It had been meticulously planned with extreme care to avoid any form of detection, pointing to a formidable and determined adversary. The precise contents of that call remain, to this day, classified, shrouded in official secrecy. However, what is undeniably clear is that it represented a stark turning point in Hogan's final days. Before the call, Hogan was consistently described as calm, healthy, and comfortably settled into his routines. After it, those closest to him observed a palpable and visible change in his mood, a subtle but distinct shift towards an unspoken apprehension. To better comprehend the profound impact of that single, enigmatic call, investigators recognized the necessity of delving deeper into Hogan's complex personal history. His intricate relationships, his enduring struggles, and the complicated ties within his fractured family could potentially hold the crucial clues they so desperately needed. Fractured family, broken peace, behind the dazzling spectacle and bright lights of Hulk Hogan's unparalleled wrestling career lay a private life often characterized by tension, profound disappointment, and a web of complicated, sometimes tumultuous, relationships. His family history quickly became one of the most intensely scrutinized aspects of the federal investigation into his final days. For agents striving to ascertain whether someone close to him might have played an unwitting or even complicit role in his unexpected death. The intricate tapestry of his marriages, public scandals, and deeply rooted family conflicts provided critical and often unsettling context. Hogan's first marriage was to Linda Claridge in 1983, a union that produced 2 children, Brooke and Nick. For many years, they were outwardly presented as the quintessential American family, an image significantly bolstered when their reality television show, Hogan Knows Best, aired in 2005. Viewers were presented with a carefully curated portrayal of Hogan as a proud, doting father and a dedicated husband, ostensibly balancing his immense wrestling fame with the demands of family life. On the surface, their world appeared stable and inviolably happy. The reality, however, was far more convoluted and ultimately fraught with discord. By 2007, whispers of infidelity began to circulate, morphing into public allegations when a woman who had worked with Brooke claimed to have had a relationship with Hogan. Though Hogan vehemently denied the accusations, the marriage irrevocably fractured soon after. Linda filed for divorce that same year, bringing an acrimonious end to 24 years together. The separation was protracted, messy, and intensely public, characterized by bitter accusations exchanged from both sides. For Hogan, it represented not merely the dissolution of a marriage, but also a profound financial and emotional strain that left him visibly struggling. He later confessed in candid interviews that during this dark period, he experienced deep depression and even contemplated suicide, revealing the devastating personal toll of the public upheaval. After several profoundly difficult years, Hogan endeavored to forge a fresh start. In 2010, he married Jennifer McDaniel in a private ceremony, seemingly finding a semblance of stability once again. This marriage endured for over a decade, but in 2021, it quietly came to an end. Unlike his first tumultuous divorce, this split was notably devoid of public arguments or extensive media coverage, reflecting a more private parting. Still, it further contributed to the accumulating sense that Hogan's personal life never quite achieved lasting peace or serenity, despite his attempts. His third marriage materialized in 2023 when he wed Sky Daly, a yoga instructor. Their relationship blossomed rapidly, with Hogan proposing after only a few months of dating. Friends observed that Daly brought a noticeable calming presence into his life, helping him to focus on his health, embrace meditation, and adopt a quieter, more grounded routine. Hogan himself affectionately described her as his anchor, someone who provided much-needed balance in his later years. While their marriage faced a degree of skepticism from some friends and family due to a significant age difference, Hogan appeared genuinely content and revitalized. However, not everyone wholeheartedly supported this new chapter in his life. His daughter, Brooke, was conspicuously absent from the wedding and had maintained a considerable distance from her father for some time. Their relationship had been strained for years, exacerbated by the relentless public scandals that perpetually surrounded Hogan, including a highly publicized leaked sex tape. Brooke chose to distance herself from family events, and while she occasionally spoke respectfully about her father in public, their once close bond was undeniably fractured, a shadow of what it had once been. The underlying tension between father and daughter became even more starkly apparent in the aftermath of Hogan's death. Reports surfaced confirming that Brooke had been definitively removed from his will prior to his passing. Instead, his son, Nick, was named the sole heir to his substantial estate, valued at nearly $5 million. This decisive and surprising exclusion of Brooke raised immediate questions about the depth of their estrangement and whether it revealed even deeper, unresolved conflicts within the family dynamic. Some interpreted it as a final, definitive reflection of their strained relationship, while others wondered if it hinted at more sinister undercurrents within the family unit. For investigators, the clear division between Brooke and the rest of the family could not be overlooked. Inheritance disputes are frequently considered a potential source of motive in unexpected deaths, adding a layer of suspicion to an already complex case. While no direct evidence immediately pointed to foul play within the family, the undeniable fact that Hogan completely disinherited one child while designating the other as the sole beneficiary created a palpable atmosphere of suspicion. The FBI discreetly noted that financial disputes, lingering grudges, or even deep-seated emotional resentments, sometimes subtly or overtly, influence the events surrounding a person's final days. Adding further complexity to this familial portrait were Hogan's long